Hearts.
Happy Friday. Thanks for tapping in.
Happy to be here, man. I'm loving the hoodie you're rocking there. For those who don't know, there's quite a backstory behind it. So you want to give us the intro about how we got connected?
Yeah, of course. Pretty serendipitous, but we met at the Bracky tournament in FarCon, and I was supposed to partner up with Phil. He was running late. I think your partner also dropped out, and it was very quick and seamless transition. But we got paired up, and fortunately, we were both hoopers at another time, and brought it to the table. So unfortunately, didn't get the chip, but we had a good run.
Yeah. So just to paint the picture here, it's Saturday night after FarCon. It's a beer pong tournament. We got about 150 people from FarCast. They're all just hanging out in this dingy little warehouse room deep in Brooklyn. I pull up, and by the grace of God, they're like, "All right, you're on Team Jeff now." So I step in, and the first thing I say to him is, "Hey, man, I don't drink." And so this guy takes it on the chest, the sacrificial lamb, just pounding beer after beer after beer, while I go rain town on a couple of people, and we make a Cinderella run all the way to the finals. Now the shout out Garrett, his team was absolutely loaded for the finals. They smacked us down, but man, was one for the record books. I'll tell you that much.
100%. I think you definitely carried us, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. I think I had one good bounce shot, and then they ripped it off the. They said in the rule book for the championship, they're like, "You're not allowed to bounce anymore." So I was kind of out, but you were making it rain. So I appreciate you carrying us to the chip. But yeah, they absolutely smoked us. So we'll get redemption next year, hopefully, if they do it.
That's right. But yeah, high level,
Yeah.
man. I'm definitely excited to be here. I know that you and I have a bunch of mutual friends. We've been exploring a lot of similar areas, and just excited to dive into it on the podcast here.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I think is really cool about what you're doing at Coop Records is trying to support artists, bring them on chain, and make sure they're getting a fair shake at it because the music industry is super tough. It's really hard to monetize your work, and I think it's really special what you're doing. So just again, like staying high level and would love to get into it, but just looking deeper at how you're supporting artists. I know Coop Records, if I'm not mistaken, has a fund attached to it. So if there are startups that you're looking at that are interesting to you that fit the thesis for your fund and what that looks like as well for any founders that are trying to build something for music.
100%. I think it might be helpful if I just give the full backstory on kind of the Coop Records origin, going from being a venture fund to being this kind of full scale platform. It's a pretty unique journey, if I may say so myself. So happy to
Yeah,
dive in if that feels productive here.
that is super productive, man. Yeah, please share everything you would like to share.
Sure. So our backstory here will start in college. I was at CU Boulder as a journalist, going to a bunch of concerts. I was writing for a music blog called This Song Is Sick, just doing a bunch of curation and basically trying to find up and coming music really early on. This was kind
You
of
were
in like the
working at wait, time out. You were working at This Song Is Sick?
yeah, very, very brief stint, but that was kind of like the OG music curation
Of
origin
course.
story that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
spawned this thesis of like, yeah, be early to your favorite songs, which is our like tagline now. Like that's what I was doing in college 10 years ago. So it's a good way to kind of set the stage for where we are today. And so basically, I went to school for music business, transferred from my accounting degree in Boulder to a music business degree down in Denver. Knew I wanted to do something in music, but didn't quite know what that looked like as a career path. And so my senior year of college, I was in a class, and one of my professors told me about smart contracts and the ability to help artists get paid in real time, expedite royalty payments, all that jazz. So I was like, cool, I've heard of Bitcoin before, this seems pretty practical. And so let me just go figure out what this crypto thing's all about. So 2017, coming out of school, the long story short is it's very difficult to make any money in music for a long time. And so I kind of realized that I was not going to be able to have a career in music out of the gate in college. And so I just went full on into crypto 2017. We're talking ICOs, we're talking white papers, we're talking KuCoin, Binance, all the OG sites that I'm sure some people listening might remember, Bitrex. I mean, there's so many I could go on. But after a period of time trading there, I was like, it's a bull market. I did really well for myself as a kid out of college. I thought I was the smartest kid in the world. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going full time crypto. I'm not going to pursue any other career path. Lo and behold, whole market comes crashing down. So now it's 2018. I'm back in my parents', house in Philly, regrouping on my life. I got a little bit of magic internet money, not enough for it to be meaningful. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to figure this out and start traveling the world, going to developer conferences. And so DeFi Summer was kind of where I got back into journalism through the crypto lens of things. And so instead of discovering songs really early on, I was like, okay, I can discover these tokens that are being launched on Ethereum and these products that are being built on Ethereum and whatnot. And so that kind of allowed me to build a little bit more, I'll say credibility. It's a strong word to throw around here. I was a very dedicated community member, a good trencher before the word trenches was really even invented, and so went pretty ham on DeFi Summer and was writing for Bankless, Defiant, this blog called DeFi Rate that we had started, and doing a lot of on-chain governance work. And that's kind of when I got the first taste of what like a quote unquote DAO would look and feel like. All these people around the world contributing to this token projects, app, whatever you want to call it, and was able to kind of find a wave with that. So out of that spawned the whole DAO era, and so this is where I co-founded a DAO called Friends with Benefits with my friend Trevor, a bunch of other amazing people that were there early on too. And the idea was very simple: hold tokens to get into a Discord group. And so that ended up having a nice little moment to itself. I joined the Audius team to help them launch their audio token and execute the audio airdrop. So at this point, it's 2020 and NFTs are about to start popping off. And I'm starting to work with all these like creator led projects. And I'm kind of coming back into my music side of things. And so for anyone that was there during 2020, 2021 NFTs, you remember it clear as day. Nifty Gateway, you had every artist under the sun coming online, dropping $1 million NFT project, riding out into the sunset. It was a absolute fever dream, but it was really cool. And it was the first time that like really well known artists were starting to put their creative work on chain. But the thing I want to call out here is that they weren't putting their IP and their music on chain. They were basically creating these one off assets that they would start to mint just as a reflection of being able to drop something in the space in the first place. And so out of that kind of spawned this era of Zora with one-on-one music NFTs, Catalog with one-on-one music NFTs, Sound with limited edition music NFTs. And for me, I really wanted to sort of own this narrative of being like a high profile collector in the music space. And the reason for that is that through that Nifty Gateway era, I was buying a lot of work from these artists that I recognized, and I was able to meet them by collecting their work on chain. So there's like a bunch of stories I have of an artist I'd followed for the last 5, 7 years, always been a fan, never knew how to get in touch with them. I would buy one of their one of ones, I would, buy a lot of their editions, and all of a sudden, this communication channel would be open where I would have a direct line of access. They would want to know more about the space. And so I got to see the vision for what's possible with this idea of buying these digital collectibles through my own fan experience. And so then, fast forward a little bit more, NFTs are starting to die down a bit. I'm kind of in this position where I'm like, okay, where do I want to be for the next 3, 5, 10 years of my life? I was doing some scout work for a fund called Variant at the time. And Jesse Walden, one of my good friends and mentors, was like, hey, you should think about raising your own fund. And so out of that, I basically raised a very small $10 million pre-seed seed stage venture fund focused on the intersection of crypto and music. Big focus of that being investing in artists, and basically started to just deploy into all of the early stage crypto music projects that were around at the time. And so for me, that was projects like Sound, Zora, Spinamp, Heads, Loners. I mean, there's a huge list of them. And for those who are listening, it's fund.cooprecords.xyz is where you can see the current portfolio. What happened with the venture fund is that basically I turned over every rock that I could find in terms of like what are the products that are working at the intersection of crypto and music. I would either give them capital, lend them my time, my energy, whatever it might be. I was collecting a lot of work on chain, onboarding a lot of artists on chain, but we kept hitting the ceiling. And to me, the ceiling was very clearly defined as there's not enough reputable artists in the space, and there's not enough good products to make them stick around if they do happen to get into the space in the first place. And so I would talk to all my friends in music and they'd be like, yo, crypto's cool, but you're not making millions of dollars on a drop anymore. And when I come to one of these music platforms, there's not enough credible artists on here to make me feel like I need to be a part of this or I want to stick around and discover new music. And so then 2023, I'm struggling because I'm investing out of this fund and I feel like nothing's really hitting, nothing's really working. The additions thing isn't really popping off like it used to. And so that's when I spun out this record label, also called Coop Records, but basically with the intention of we're going to be the A&R now. We're going to go and get these artists. We're going to bring them on chain. We're going to put their music on these sites for them. We're going to take care of all the crypto shit that makes it really intimidating for artists to get started in the first place. And we're going to give them a taste of what it's like to be in this space without them having to be fully invested in it. And so fast forward to today, we've onboarded, 175 artists to Coop Records, artists like Odessa, Zed's Dead, Barry Can't Swim. The list goes on and on, but I'm really proud of what we've built. We built a full end-to-end platform. We built a minting protocol. We built a meme coin protocol. And we have a team of about 10 right now that's basically looking to combine this highly curated artist roster that's primarily electronic music right now, with this very dedicated collecting app that is originally desktop first, but now heading into the mobile first space, that we can start to really go out, talk to these fans, and get them into this world in a way that, I think people expected to happen in 2021, but that I don't think actually had a real chance to happen until now.
Cool. No, thanks for the synopsis there. And one of the things that immediately sticks out, just for the sideline of being exposed while living in LA to what the music industry looks like, seeing what an A&R role is, I think it pops out because that role has shifted. It's changed so much over the years. And I don't think people really understand the importance of that role for artists. And so, kind of for those that don't know that are listening, like what an A&R does, I would love for you to talk about what it looks like when in like the music industry as we know for the past 20 years and what it looks like today with Coop Records and what you're doing now.
Yeah, it's a good framing. I would say traditional A&R is typically working at a record label. They're basically looking to find artists to sign to a deal. And so what this looks like is going and finding their music, getting them to commit to an album or an EP, typically giving them a large paycheck up front. Let's call it somewhere in the ballpark of 50 to 100 grand. That's in exchange for maybe 10 songs and 50% of the masters in those songs. And so the artist is basically getting a large upfront amount of capital. The A&R is starting to take on the risk of developing that artist, promoting the music, trying to bring it to the world. Best case scenario possible, one of the songs pops off. The label makes their money back off of the streaming. The artist recoups their deal and is now starting to earn royalties on the back end. But more typically, what you see happen is that the advance that the A&R gives to the artist is not ever covered by the amount of money that's generated from that music on Spotify. And so I guess to make even like a crypto analogy here, it's kind of like trading meme coins in a sense. You're like one token is going to hit and produce all of the outsized returns for the entire investment that you put into like 10 or 15 or 20 tokens over a much longer period of time. And so what I'm really proud of with what we do with Coop Records is that it's all in real time. As an A&R in Coop Records, they go, hey, I love your music. Send me your song and a cover art. I'm going to upload it to this platform. The second that someone collects your song, you're getting paid in real time. And so there's no concept of like a big advance that you have to pay off in order to start getting paid on Coop Records. There's no delay and you having to wait 3 to 6 months to get paid out from streaming on Spotify and then to the label and then to you. It's all just in real time. We don't touch masters or publishing, so it's a very additive form of income for these artists. And as an A&R, bro, my life now is just going to music festivals and basically just seeing like who are the artists that are popping off, like who are the artists that have really big posses that are going with them to the stage, who are the artists that are currently independent or thinking about being independent, or for the ones that are on these labels. For me now, it's basically like, how do I not only work with the artists that are dropping good music, but how do I also partner with the labels that are signing good music and basically have this relationship where we become more or less their exclusive partner to put their music on chain across their entire roster.
So, with that said, how much has the role of an A&R changed with the implementation of AI and streaming services like Spotify? Where, I mean, someone that I know um, who was a VP at Interscope for a number of years was telling me how much the industry's changed. He got out with that huge layoff at Interscope. Um, but he was telling me because I always pushed him. I'm like, Don, why are you not back? Like, why are you not going to find another label? And he's just like, it's just so competitive. It's so difficult to one, find the artist. And then also the way that they're just taking sound bites and finding a song that's just good on TikTok. Like, I don't understand the intricacies of it, but maybe you could give us insight of like how difficult it is to be an A&R, but then at the same time, how you're kind of changing the game, so to speak, in that you're not predatory, you're not giving them this upfront cash and then going on the back end and being like, you owe me all of it, right? So I know that's kind of a long-winded and broad thing, but maybe you could touch on some of that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the name of the game is basically, can you get your song to go viral on TikTok? And if so, can you put it out on Spotify within the next week before fans get mad at you? And so I'd say that like the window in terms of like discovery and like a song being able to have a moment is way shorter than it ever was before. I think in the past there was a lot more longevity around artist development and taking a couple of years to develop an album or an EP and roll that out very gradually over time. Now, if you're an A&R, you're trying to go for that one big song that's generating the vast majority of the returns. I'm going to be the first to say I'm not like an A&R working at a label. So this is just what I see from my friends, but it's very much this this follow on frenzy type mentality, right? Like if you're an up and coming artist and you're putting out music and you're getting a couple 100,000 streams here and there, you can probably land like an indie distro deal. You can probably land like a 25K advance for maybe 5, 7 songs, but it's not going to last you the whole year. And so you're basically struggling EP by EP to get enough money to pay rent and then be able to have additional income to invest into your project. And so once you have, knock on wood, that viral moment, which is one in every 1,000 artists, then you have this wave of people basically swarming to you and be like, hey, we want to buy into that song. We want to upstream this to our label now. We saw you had that viral song. Now we want to sign you to the next viral songs. And so it's kind of this weird relationship on both sides where artists manage or A&Rs understand how difficult it is to make money on the streaming side of music these days. And so they're not really looking to take a chance on artists until they've proven their brand out a little bit more. They've proven that they know how to do short form content and how to really like talk about their projects to a wider audience. And then it's also on the artist side, like I don't want to sign away 50% of my masters to a song that if I go viral and I do this myself through TikTok, I don't really need the label's infrastructure to develop the song as much. The label is really for like mega smashes that are like going to radio. You want to go international. You want to take this to new levels. That's where I think the labels are like really, really powerful. But if you're just a kid in his bedroom that uploaded a couple of videos to TikTok that popped off, you getting, one or two more editorial playlists on Spotify, it's not really going to move the needle. And so you're kind of seeing a lot of artists now choose to stay independent because the amount of value they can capture by retaining that 50% instead of giving it to someone else is actually very clear and tangible for artists that understand this new method of distribution.
Got it. So for those artists that are with Coop Records, are you how does the relationship look with those artists that do have label deals? So for the Odessas or the Barry Can't, I would assume Barry Can't Swim has a label or a record label deal with the UMGs of the world. But what does that look like? How do you fit into that scenario?
So both of those artists are under a label called Ninja Tune. And Ninja Tune's been one of our like biggest label partners. They've been absolutely fantastic to work with. The way that we do it on our end is that Ninja Tune sends us a release calendar every month. They say, hey, here are the artists that we have dropping over the next 30 days. Pick and choose which ones you want to upload to the platform. They deliver all the assets to us. We make a wallet for the artists. We upload the records for them. And at that every month, we take the ETH that we make and we cash it out. And then we send it to Ninja Tune. And Ninja Tune basically accounts it to their artist accounts as sort of like an added line item of income. And so Ninja Tune's the one basically going to an artist like Barry Can't Swim and saying, hey, we have this extra platform we're going to be distributing to. Don't worry about needing to promote it as like a crypto thing or anything like that. These guys will handle it. And for us, we now have access to this much wider pool of talent, but it's kind of done in a way that without the label, we wouldn't be getting well, first of all, we wouldn't even be able to access, artists like Barry Can't Swim from my personal network. And then also on top of that, we wouldn't legally be able to do the records because Ninja Tune's the one that owns the masters and the copyright. And so it's kind of this interesting balance where what I've learned is that the higher you go up the food chain, the more people there are that are involved with the record and the more people you need to get cleared to make it happen. And so we're really fortunate that, working in music for the last 10 years, an artist project like Odessa, we've known their management team for a long time. We helped them out with some projects in 2021. And, when they saw what we were doing, they were down to kind of take a chance and put a couple of songs on chain with us. But I still think it's a long time before two sides to this. One, we can accommodate onboarding as much music as is out there in the world, like, thousands and thousands of songs a day. And then also these artists feel like they're getting a quality experience from us because they are really taking a chance by releasing their work in the crypto world. If fans see that they're dropping quote unquote NFTs, they get fucking pissed. Like fans do not like crypto. They do not like NFTs. They have a bad experience with them. And so we're kind of in this interesting pocket where we're opening the door to an added source of income for them, but we're doing it in a way that kind of feels like a little bit secretive right now. And I think that my biggest challenge as a founder and as a, product developer is basically like, how do we make this thing simple enough and exciting and social enough and compelling enough that a music fan would not be completely turned off by using it just because there's quote unquote NFTs under the hood.
Totally. And so really well said. And I think the thing that pops to mind right away as an end user and a consumer of, these collectibles is like, what's in it for me? Is it simply me just supporting the music that I like that is on chain? And by doing so, I'm just buying that song? Or are there things that you're thinking about working on that are going to make it more enticing to bring in the masses to something like Coop Records?
So I think for us, the big unlock is that people aren't just going to collect because they like the song. There's not enough just like patrons in the world to build like a sustainable economy here. You can get by a little bit, but it's not going to be like a venture scale outcome. And so for us, the way that we position it to artists and get them on board is we say, hey, people are collecting a limited set of collectibles. So there's scarcity here. There's 5,000 editions per song. They're very cheap to collect. They're $1 per edition. And what you're getting back is a rebate in the form of song coins. So you kind of have this like more viral meme coin upside associated with the collecting an edition. And then you get ownership in the record label. And so what I like to say is it's not just about supporting one individual song or one individual artist. It's about being a part of this ecosystem that we're developing and knowing as a collector, you're also becoming a part of this wider system. And so taking that a step further, we talked about A&Rs and where I see the vision for this going. Right now, it's me and Jake on our team going out, talking to these artists, deciding what releases get uploaded to the platform. My ultimate goal for this is that you, as a holder of Coop, are able to curate what artists come onto the platform and have an incentive to actually bring new music onto the platform because there's a reward for you to be able to do so. And so, one of the cool features that we have, which is not new by crypto terms, but I think is interesting, exciting, is when I buy a song on Coop Records, I repost that song to my entire feed. And when someone collects it after me on my feed, I get a kickback as the curator of that. And so back in the days of SoundCloud, everyone knows how important the reposts were to driving virality and success and whatnot. And the way I like to think about it now is that collecting a song for $1 is the same thing as reposting the song on SoundCloud, except now you're basically turning on this switch, which says, hey, if I develop a following and I get 10, 15, 100 people to buy this song after me, I get a kickback automatically on chain. And now I, as the curator of this music, can actually start to make some income as well.
It's awesome. So really cool. And is that something that you had in mind the entire time, or is this something that was in development as you went?
I think this is one of the interesting parts about building in crypto is that there's new doors that get unlocked every year. And I actually don't think a product like this was possible to build at scale until recently. I mean, you have the development of L2s like Base. Base didn't exist 2 years ago. It definitely didn't exist in 2021. Curator rewards are relatively new too. I mean, Zora was the one that pioneered that with their minting contracts maybe a year or two ago as well. And then being able to do things like account abstraction, embedded wallets, and basically turning off all the crypto shit so that someone can just do a one-click collect. That hasn't really been possible until now either. And so you have this weird like balancing act of like what's possible with the technology today. And then once you build an app that supports all those things, it's not like people are banging down your door to use this app. You have to like go and find people and sell it to them and get them to come into this product that it's a new behavior. And I think that's the thing that's challenging for us is that people are used to just being able to listen to all the music they love on Spotify for $9.99 a month. And so for us to go and say, hey, spend $10 on 10 songs, it's a very different pitch. And so for me, the challenge is that we have to make it culturally relevant and cool and exciting to say, oh, I have 5 editions of this Barry Can't Swim song. I have 10 editions of this Odessa song. I want to send one edition to my friend. I went to this show and in my mind, I'm thinking, I loved that song. I want to buy it to show that I'm early to this song and, have one of these limited copies. And there's this whole design space around like social cues that I think is very untapped and unsolved right now. And that's why I'm spending all my time at these concerts and festivals, just trying to understand what that could look like.
So trying to bring the element of like, and it's the same thing with This Song Is Sick, is if you're the first one to know that song and you're playing that in your dorm room, or there's almost this like, I don't want to share that song with you. That's just subliminal with music. And you're adding that and you're bringing that element on chain is how I'm putting this together, more or less, right?
100%. And I would say the next version of this is obviously we're living in a meme coin land here in crypto. And so I'll just say it how it is. Editions aren't very sexy to most crypto people, right? And so what we're experimenting with now is how do we take our most viral songs on Coop Records and actually coin them and start to offer more of a liquid market around it. And so my like real-time conversation internally is it's really cool to think about songs as meme coins. 99.9% of all the songs in the world probably don't have enough star power to be, desirable to the average buyer or meme coin trader. So how do we kind of step into this more like meme coin oriented world we're living in while not completely alienating all of the long tail of artists that exist in the world and kind of offering this hybrid product that has additions, which are a very direct way of supporting the artist. And then, coins are a much more speculative volatile side of things for the kind of 0.1% of songs that have, a lot of juice left to squeeze in them.
Got it. So, with all of that said, and it sounds like your GTM and sales efforts are really predicated on you being in attendance, right? Being at these shows, getting FaceTime with these artists, management, etc. What is the game plan for Coop Records right now? If you can't share too much, it's all good. But like, how do you plan to scale so that it's not contingent on just you or your partner getting FaceTime and shaking hands?
I mean, flashback to me in 2018 in college. I mean, even earlier that 2015, 2016, you could basically get free tickets to festivals by handing out flyers. And so I would like go around in the parking lot in Denver and like put flyers on every car that was out there, you know what I mean? Or I would write these blog posts and get a ticket that way. I would do an artist interview. And so this is all very early, but my like hope is that there's a way to incentivize, fans at these shows to actually go around and talk about this to other people that are around them. There's this awesome product called WAP that I got put onto pretty recently. And you can basically get people to like cut up clips of different videos and basically repost those. And then if they get a certain amount of views, they get paid out on that. And so I think for me, what scaling this looks like is it's going to start with a very core group of like internal facing, A&Rs, let's call it, people who have a lot of experience in music. And then it's hopefully going to very quickly shift to just like, if you're a fan and you're tapped into our ecosystem, you like the music that's on here, how do I give you the best tools possible to go out and just sell this to the world and then just know that it's going to come back to you because you're able to earn 50, $100 a month as a college kid, which is enough to make something like this pretty significant to you.
Yeah. So another thing that popped up in my mind is the genre of music that you're specifically working in right now. It seems like it's heavy EDM, and the subgenres that are within that. Is there any game plan of trying to scale out and start reaching out to the hip hop or the country or the alternative music? Has that been on the roadmap at all as well?
100%. I mean, that's like the big kahuna here, right? I think that for me, it's very interesting to think about just where you're positioned to do well. And having spent the last 10 years in electronic music, it feels really natural to me. Those conversations feel really fluid. It doesn't feel like I'm just going in completely cold. And it's also just the music that I personally love the most. And so being a record label, you're really predicating based on your taste. And so for me, I think that trying to nail this with a more niche community of music, which is electronic music, and get everything dialed there, we have every ambition in the world to go to other genres. But I think it's really just a matter of like, do we have the team internally that is well versed enough in those different genres to be able to have the same depth of impact that we have in electronic music? And, I've been telling myself a lot lately, like, this is not like a 1 tier game where we're expecting to have like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of artists on here in 12 months. It's going to take us 10 years to build something that's pretty compelling. And so it's just about being able to survive and just put your company in a position to be able to go through all these iterations and just live to see another day each time you kind of wake up in the morning.
Yeah. And so one of the things that's really unique about this is you are the first, if not one of the first to market. What are some of the things that you're thinking about as you scale? As a founder, you've got to always be thinking about, how do I continue to be the best? How do I continue to outstand any competition that comes in the door? Of course, like the quality, the passion that will protect you to an extent. But what are you doing, or what are some of the thoughts that you have right now as an entity, as a business, that are going to keep protecting you as you continue to scale over the years?
Distribution. I mean, this is the thing that I think is very essential to a lot of crypto apps right now, is that you kind of see this playbook where, a project starts as a small consumer app. They basically garner this really dedicated community of new users to crypto. Very important to highlight this. And then basically able to grow from there. Then they're able to launch their own chain, and then they're able to have an ecosystem under them and whatnot. And so I actually try not to think too much about like the future 10-year scale version of this, because we still have so much to solve right in this moment. But I think for me, the most immediate thing that's so obvious amongst everyone that's building a consumer crypto app right now is that your app is as valuable as the net new users that you can bring to it and own as sort of your customers. And so right now, everyone's kind of fighting for this really small net of like 30,000 people in crypto that are down to use these apps and airdrop farm and, throw a couple bucks in a contract, hopefully lock it up for a period of time. But that's not what's going to win the battle here. And that's not the thing that's going to make the app really pop off. It's, can you actually go out and get real people to use your product that don't know anything about crypto? And I actually don't think we've really seen like a lot of great examples of that in the last couple of years. And so it's still, in my opinion, like a very open race to who can do the best job at that. And I think that we're in a unique position because people think in crypto music's a joke, and then people in music thinks crypto's a joke. And so we're kind of this like underdog where I really think we can Trojan horse into like a shit ton of real people, but do it in a way that feels really like unconventional and do it in a way that feels fun, which is ultimately what we're here to do in the first place after all.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it on the head earlier when you were talking about all of the innovations that have occurred in the past year and it being how simple it is just to collect. I mean, if you were trying to do that in 2018, 2019, I mean, it's pretty much non-existent. So I think you're also at this juxtaposition of like, you got to hurry up and wait. Like you're ready to rock. You got your thing ready, but at the same time, the technology's not keeping up with some of the pace that you're already out there doing.
I would say it's there for the first time, basically in the lifetime of crypto. It's to a point where you can build an app that doesn't feel super crypto heavy. And so if I want to go and buy something on chain today, I don't need to spin up a wallet. I don't need to go and fund that wallet with Ether Soul. I don't need to bridge it to Base or bridge it to Solana or off ramp from an exchange or something like that. I mean, the all of the pieces are on the table right now, and I think now it's just a matter of putting those things together and then just going and actually talking to people. And that's honestly been the thing that's the most intimidating to me is that crypto's not cool anymore. There's a period of time in LA where you could walk around and, talk to people about NFTs and they'd want to, grab a coffee or something like that and pick your brain and, you name it. But that's not what it is today, bro. You go up to someone, you say, hey, I work in crypto, and they don't want anything to do with me. So it's a very different world out there. And I think that that's what makes this challenging is not only are you trying to sell an app of which people have hundreds of, trying to sell a crypto app. And the crypto part, it's not really helping you out. So I think that's kind of the interesting nuance here that I've been trying to really work on is when I'm with friends, like, oh, this is my friend Cooper, like, he runs this crypto app. I almost find myself being like, whoa, like, hey,
Don't tell them that.
let's not lead with that. You know what I mean? Like let's give him a chance to actually think that I know what I'm talking about in music before you start to like put the crypto label on and then the whole vibe just changes from there.
Yeah, there's a bit of a taboo with it. I even posed the question today. It's like, when are we going to stop as a community? When are we going to stop saying Web3? Because if you
Yeah.
really think about it, like Web3 is just the internet. It's a new iteration, just like how Web 1.0 became. They weren't calling it Web 1.0 or Web 2.0. It's just this. I don't know. I think when we start putting labels on things, especially around crypto and the taboo that it has, people misconstrue that and don't realize the technology and capabilities of it. I mean, I'm just going back and trying not to glaze too hard here, but like what you're doing for artists right now and knowing how difficult it is for them to not only monetize their work, but also protect their assets. It's a predatory game. There's a reason why there's so much money in the music industry, but these artists are going broke after 5, 6 years if they're irrelevant. And I think with you and like what the platform is that you're building right now, it's enabling them to be you're empowering them, right? So I think with that said, there's a lot to go. There's a lot to work with, and just being at the forefront of that and keeping the artists in mind is the thing that I would argue, for whatever my 2 cents are worth, is what's going to enable Coop Records to scale out into this, competitive entity in the future with music.
Right. And that's always the challenge, right? Is that how do you sort of deliver an experience that is worthwhile as you start to grow the number of artists on your roster and on the platform? And so for us, when we're onboarding new acts, we're not just like taking anyone that sends us an email. We're very intentional about every week we try and onboard maybe one new artist, about 10 to 12 a month right now. We're doing about 10 to 15 releases per week. And we could ramp that up really quickly and we could go after a much larger amount of artists. But the reality is their experience with the platform would not be as good because there's just not enough demand from people to be collecting this music right now. And so I think that's kind of what we're trying to balance here is like onboarding great talent to make this be a place to discover new music that's really exciting, culturally relevant, but doing it at this pace that feels realistic, where it doesn't feel like we're trying to like blow things out of the water. And I would also say, just to add one other point there, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're changing artists' lives by making them $500 or $1,000 per release, but it's significant to them, And I think that's almost the reality check that needed to happen for this space to have legs is that people got used to being able to make $400,000 in 2 minutes on Nifty Gateway. And that was their relationship with the space. Or even like sound in 2022, you would sell at a drop 25 editions at 0.1, you're making 2.5 ETH, you're making $7,000, 10 grand on a drop. And even that was like, people stopped doing that and they were like, oh, well, this space is dead because I'm not making 5 grand on a drop. I'm like, bro, this is music, man. Like it's because, a million streams gets you $3,000. Like if I can get you $500, $1,000 per record in the first week that it comes out, like I'm happy with that. So that's kind of the baseline. And then the question that I'm now asking myself is, if that's the baseline, getting an artist like 500 bucks, $1,000 per release, how do we start to deliver exponential outcomes where there is a world where if a song goes crazy viral, an artist can make 100 grand off of trading fees. And I think that's kind of the X factor that I'm now trying to zoom in on is like, we have this base, it's solid, artists love it, they're super happy with how it's going, but we're missing that sweet sugar moment, which is like, okay, an artist just made 100 grand off of this song from this crypto platform and where they would never be able to make otherwise and kind of deliver those experiences because that's really what got NFTs on the map. It was Blau selling $10 million worth of his music and the entire music industry going, holy shit, there's a new way to monetize that didn't exist before. And we're now going to start to get involved because we see that there's now this opportunity to do something that was never possible before.
Just to further the point, what I was saying too is that uh, forget like the on-chain aspect of this right now. What you're doing for artists by allowing them, yeah, you're exposing them to this new revenue stream that they would have never had access to. But there's gatekeeping that goes on within the music industry, and for you to be able to empower them, these independent artists, yeah, like they could go down the street and go to a record label, get a deal, as opposed to like working with you on this, but what are all of the ramifications of that? They're getting exposed to getting all of this cash up front that they're starving artists. And so they're getting all of this upfront money. So to your point, what's awesome is that you're working hand in hand with these artists. You're vetting them. Like you want to make sure you can work with them long term, where a lot of these artists are just get rich quick. They don't know what to do with it. They blow all of it. And it's like, oh, by the way, that's not your money. You owe us. Right. So being able to, yeah, give them fractional amounts up front, but over time, that's just their money. So I think that that element of it is super innovative. And also, and the question to follow up on that on is like when you're working with these artists, are you really working with management or are you working directly with the artists? Is it a mix?
It's definitely a mix. I would say about 80% of the artist is directly with the artist itself. It's just simply like a text group that we have with like me, the artist, their manager, and we're just using that to share assets and basically just distribute earnings. I would say that what we've seen happen a lot now is that a manager of an artist will see us do well with one of their artists and then basically like, I actually manage like 4 or 5 other artists. Do you want to help with any of these other acts as well? And so it's kind of this nice word of mouth thing where the artist will either interest to their friends who are artists, the manager will have a roster of people they work with, or the label will have a roster of people that they work with. And so one point I want to make here is that everyone in crypto likes to have this narrative of like, oh, we're changing the world. This is the biggest new thing. It's going to reinvent the music industry. It's going to revolutionize the music industry. They start from this like $1 million, like massive, massive, massive problem. Be like, we have the answer. And I'm like, bro, we do not have the answer. We are not even close to having the answer right now, you know? And so on one part, it's just being humble about realizing how niche this thing currently is. And on the other side, it's not trying to paint this picture that labels are the bad guy and we're coming to fucking put them all out of business. You know, it's like our label partners are what get us access to the biggest artists in the world. And without them, there is no world where we're getting the Odessas, the Barry Can't Swims, the Zeds of the world onto the platform. And so I think it's really important to recognize that I'm not an anti-label guy. I'm actually a very pro-label guy, and being able to work directly with them to offer this added income stream and become like a more forward-looking label is really valuable. Because that's honestly, just to tell a quick anecdote, that's what got us in the door with someone like Ninja Tune is that we had this artist named Cosmo. He signed a big advance. You know, he had a record came out and it did decently well, but I'm not going to say that it was the biggest project in the world. But we did a drop with him on Coop Records and popped off, and he made like 15 ETH from it. And he used that to pay off his advance. And so the label was like, yo, what's going on over here? We just, you know, recouped this entire deal on this like super niche all crypto platform. Let's do a lot more records. And so now we're doing, you know, 15, 20 records a month with them. We've onboarded maybe like 25 of their artists at this point. Incredibly, incredibly talented artists. And that's their, to their credit, we would literally not be able to do that without them. And that was them taking a chance on us to be like, we trust you guys, go and make us some extra money and make these artists proud. And it's a very mutually beneficial relationship.
So I mean, yeah, and those are the positive feel good stories that you have where you're making these relationships with these labels that, you know, on the surface you would assume are just going to be pieces of shit that don't take care of their artists or just in it for the money, transactional relationships. But then you go find maybe a label like that who isn't Universal, isn't a, you know, one of the big brands, and they're willing to take that shot. So I think is that been your approach? It's like, I'm not going to go after all of the big dogs, but let's go after the tier twos, the tier threes that are willing to take a shot on something different.
Totally. Go after is a strong word because it's all been word of mouth for me. You know what I mean? It's just like we have one artist that leads to a manager that leads to another one, and like the doors just kind of reveal themselves. I will say that we haven't been very forward in pursuing the major labels, but probably not for the reason that it seems. I think for me, I've realized that the size of the label dictates the expectation they have on how much income is valuable and moves the needle for them. And so when you work with a major label, if you're not making them 50, 100 grand a month, that's a drop in the bucket to them. You're not relevant to them. And so I think for us, it's almost like we want to work with labels that were able to help move the needle for smaller up and coming artists first and foremost. But I've also come to realize that the reason that these bigger labels are hard to work with is not because they're bad people. They're just fucking giant entities. Like if you want to go in and work with a major label, you're talking to, their A&R team, then you're talking to like the head of digital, and then you're talking to the lawyers on the other side of the equation. Then you're talking to the people who handle distribution. And it's just like a big, big beast. And that's why they're so valuable. But I don't think that it's because people are malicious. I just think things are slower to move when it's a bigger entity because they've been around for so long and they're worth billions of dollars that it's just got to be worth their time. And so luckily we're starting to like have some of our first major label conversations right now. But the biggest thing I'm terrified of is that we're not ready to open the floodgate. We can't take on a major label's catalog and expect it to do well. And I'm not over here saying that I'm going to disrupt major labels because we need them to be able to bring the best talent in the world onto our platform. And so for me, it's like one small domino at a time. That is the beast at the end of the tunnel there. But that's also when shit gets the most complicated. So for me right now, I'm just kind of sitting in this very nice zone of like, we love the artists we work with. We love the partners that we work with. We have a lot of shit to figure out to make this product usable to real people. But my life orientation right now is like what I've always dreamed of it wanting to be. And so just exist in this pocket as much as possible and just like cherish that fire and allow it to grow very naturally over the course of time.
Yeah. I mean, that's the goal right there, man. And to be able to work in music, it's a dream, and it's not easy. I mean, the friends that I have that have made it, um, they've done it very well. They're doing really well for themselves, but the journey to get in is not easy. I mean, our mutual friend Evan, shout out to Evan, his story of like how he got plugged in as a manager, it was not this like nepotism, oh, here you go, you can just walk in. You've got to grind. And it sounds like you did too. Like, I mean, you probably, I would assume, and I would love to hear from you, but it's just like, I'm working for This Song Is Sick. You probably got paid $0 at the bat. You were doing it for free, posting about cool songs that you loved, and just hoping to build relationships and just meet people in the process. Right? At the best, you get a ticket to the show that you really wanted to go to. But yeah, I mean, like a little bit about yourself. Does that sound on brand? Like it's not like it just got
100%.
handed to you.
I never made a cent in music, maybe ever. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to think, like even now, like we're building this platform, but there wasn't a moment where I was raking in, a ton of money. I was like, oh, this is the cash cow. We got to milk it or something like that. Like it was always just for the love of the game and being able to work with artists that had enough significance behind their career to actually generate enough income to make all this kind of relevant in the first place. And so I think for me, it's like the combination of how hard it is to make in music. And then what's been more interesting for me in the last year is this kind of like identity shift of like, I don't really like identify as much with like crypto people anymore, and that was my life post college. That's where I made all of my money in my early start of my career. It's where I raised my venture fund from and sourced all this capital and whatnot. And now I go to crypto conferences and I look around and I'm just like, yo, we're speaking different languages. Like the things that are important to me now are not the things that are important to you, but I have so much love and I owe so much to this space. And it's such like the backbone of what I'm building that like, you got to kind of put on different hats. Like when I log on to Farcaster, it's a very different mentality than I have when I go to EDC, and trying to like bob between those two is like a very interesting context switch that I'm still trying to get the right grasp on.
Yeah, and I think with all of that said, and not to shit talk Web3 or crypto at all, but I think that what you're trending towards is what we need to as an entire ecosystem, which is like the more that you pigeonhole and put yourselves in this silo and don't open it up to the doors to different real world industries like music, like sports, entertainment, whatever, finance, even, you have to understand those industries the way that you do in order for this to scale up collectively.
I think the challenge for me though is that 2021 it was cool to get into crypto because there was cool people in crypto. And I think that historically over the last couple years there hasn't been a new entry of people that make it fun or exciting or desirable to be in crypto. And so this archetype of like a crypto bro is still very much a real thing. And when I work with these artists, I no longer I don't feel any obligation to be like, "Oh, you got to come meet all these people in crypto because they're super cool and they're like really going to give a lot of value to you or like just be cool people." It's like I don't know, man. I just struggle with like the current social dynamic of crypto and like making it feel like a fun place to be and like a fun culture to be a part of. And I think that we really hit this like wall to the point now where I'm like, yo, I'm gonna go find my own thing over here, but like I don't want to necessarily pull these people into like this Twitter space or into like this Telegram group or something because I'm kind of scared of what people are
And
gonna say. And it's
do you think it's a little negative? Like, is it this pivot of like crypto Twitter just being doomsday blackpilled? That attitude, is that what you're referring to?
a little bit of that. It's like extremely degenerate, but then it's also just a little bit like out of touch or out of tune with like most of mainstream culture. You know what I mean? Like I think people who live and breathe crypto full time, if you drop them in a room of like a concert or if you drop them in like a party, like they're in the corner scrolling on fucking Phantom Wallet. You know what I mean? Like they're not socializing or able to talk to people normally or then they're talking about it's been interesting because I was that person in 2021 like wearing crypto as like my identity and in a lot of ways it still is but like I don't lead with that because it's just not the wave anymore. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people struggle to realize that are still like full-time in crypto today.
Yeah, and dude, that's the challenge, and you see it on Farcaster. One of the things that Ted's been posting a bunch is just like, how do we onboard cool people? You know, like how what is it that we need to do to onboard cool people? And it's like, dude, I don't think she's. I could be wrong. I don't think she's referring to Ansem. I don't think she's referring to like. It's like, how do we get these influencers, these key opinion leaders outside of crypto in here? And I think you're nailing it on the head. It's like, well, what is enticing them to like leave what they're doing and get brought into there? And I think it could be a cultural thing where you're nailing it. Like, how are you social? How are you cool? How are you being like a positive force? Even if you can't offer anything, but just be a good person. And I will say, and not to go full on blast on crypto as an entirety, like I think there are really cool people that are in the space. I mean, I got to meet you, dude. I mean, that was unreal. Like the bracket turn the beer pong thing, there was not a single person there that I was like, man, that really sucked getting to talk to that person. I mean, I even brought my wife, and my wife, who is not crypto native, has not a clue. I had to set her up on Warpcast and now Farcaster, and she's just like, what the fuck is this? Like, who are they? And then goes in person. Everyone, like, I just left her alone. You know, everyone couldn't have been. I was terrified, dude. I was terrified. I'm like, but anyway, everyone was super friendly, super nice to her. She met so many cool people. So like, I do want to stay positive, but I agree. I agree with the sentiment in that, you know, it's super degen. There's a lot of like weird shit going on in the space, right? Like the meme coin saga that happened starting in March 23. When you see this PvP stuff, you see these people just like, right, you get fucking 10-year-olds like rugging people and putting it on a live stream and flicking everyone off. Like that's the culture that we're trending towards. How, like, you know, I can't sustain that. And I can't imagine you want to introduce any artist, manager, or anyone into the space if that is the culture right now.
100%. So that's kind of the question is how do you like protect this culture and put it into the crypto world in a way that doesn't completely fuck it in the first place, you know?
Yeah, but I think the thing is that I was trying to point out, and maybe I didn't word it correctly, is like we have to bring. I think the people like yourself that are founders that are trying to build something in an industry that's in the real world and utilize blockchain, crypto, etc. You have to branch out. You can't stay on your phone hanging out with the social crew of Web3 and just sit there and keep that identity, keep that culture going. It's to your point. I think we've outgrown it. And in order for us to like be a founder that's really bringing real world value, you have to bring that technology, that infrastructure elsewhere. You know, it's not bringing them into the Web3 space. It's you pulling the information and experience and bringing it to real world industries and opportunities.
Exactly. I mean, I'm very fortunate for our position. We have a long way to go, but I really think we've done a lot over the last couple of years. We've been pretty quiet about it, all things considered, and I think that now is kind of our time to really go out and prove to people that there's something worth paying attention to here.
Yeah. No, I agree. And with all that said, I think we're coming up at time, Coop. I want to be respectful of your time. But yeah, do you want to, is there any shout out, anything that for the people that are listening, what you want to plug in real quick?
Yeah, I would say if you're listening to this, check out the site, cooprecords.xyz. We're currently working on a new mobile app, beta.cooprecords.xyz. If you get a chance to use it and you have any feedback or you just want to shoot the shit on artists you'd like to see on the platform, I'm always online on Twitter and Warpcast at Koopa. You can find me on Instagram, and I've been posting some clips on TikTok too. So I'm in all the places. And I would say if you made it this far, would love to hear your feedback, would love to hear about what artists you'd like on the platform. But genuinely just appreciate the chance to be able to come and talk about this. I feel like it's very rare that I do a podcast and really just kind of shoot from the hip anymore with a lot of what we've been working on. So I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm very thankful for the chance to talk about it.
Coop, you're the man. I appreciate you making the time. We'd love to have you back on, and maybe we can get updates after Japan and all the cool things you're up to.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Happy
sir.
birthday,
Appreciate you,
brother!
man.
In advance, happy birthday.
Thank you, man.
Of course. Cheers, man.
Cheers.